You all know I love bad movies. In fact, one of my favorite movies ever made is Moonfall. I can't stop preaching the gospel of how incredibly awful that movie is in all of the best ways, making it one of the most entertaining films ever created. I just really love bad films, but of course there is a line. There's boring bad, where there's nothing redeemable about it, it's just a slog to get through and it's just not fun. And then there's fun bad, where a movie is so bad that it becomes extremely enjoyable, especially when watching with friends. And I always assumed that the Twilight movies were in the first camp, boring bad. I thought it was just going to be throwaway, silly, schlocky romance for teens. But what I'd never realized until chat enlightened me, opened my third eye to the truth, is that it's actually fun bad. So I took them at their word, and I gathered the gang. So Aaron, Meadow, Tiana, and I started watching Twilight yesterday. And I've got to tell you, what an incredibly awful, fun shit film. It's just such a joyful experience. The movie is so special in that it does nothing well. Not a single thing. There is nothing in Twilight that is even remotely competent. And that makes it amazing. And it also moves at 1,000,000 miles an hour. The film was 2 hours long, and I actually felt like I had just ventured through a wormhole by the end of it, because I thought it'd only been like 5 minutes. Time moves so much quicker when watching it. It's so impressive in how shittily unashamed it is with its production here. So I was ranting and raving about it on stream for like 30 minutes, so I'm just going to play the clips of that where I was debriefing about the film. What I do want to talk about is what I did today with Aaron, Tiana, and Meadow. And it's something I said I'd do on stream a couple weeks ago. We're doing a Twilight marathon. I've never seen those movies, and I always thought they'd be boring shitty, but after chat convinced me that there were some outrageously stupid scenes that make it fun bad, we decided to take the plunge. We only watched one of them today. Holy fuck. I cannot believe those movies were as popular as they were. It is mind-bogglingly awful. All of the romance actually feels like AI generated. Edward, I don't even know where to start, honestly. There's so much. The movie moves at a breakneck pace. It's like 2 hours long, but by the end of it, I actually thought we'd only sat down for 10 minutes. It was crazy. So, Edward, it's like he's like an animatronic, but he only has two settings, which is hateful and stoic, and nothing else. Like frozen solid and angry. So like he'll come up to Bella and he'll be like, "Fucking love you," and then he'll like kind of push her and she falls, and he'd grab her and be like, "Watch where you're fucking going." Like, it's so weird. Like, he literally keeps coming out of nowhere just to like say something almost romantic, and romantic I'm using super loosely. Like, the romantic extent of his talk is, "You smell good. I like your smell, and I can't read your mind." But then immediately after saying that, he'd give her like the most foul look ever and run away after saying, "Get the fuck away from me. Get away from me. You're not good for me. Get away. I shouldn't be here. Get away from me." Or like he walked up to her as she was trying to get back on the bus after like a field trip to fucking, I don't know, cannabis farm. I don't even remember where they went. But they were like composting with the class. And Edward goes up to her after it and like starts small talk, kind of. And this is after he like pushed her down and then grabbed her and said, "Watch where you're going." He then comes up to her and he's like, "Yeah, you're just not good for me." And then they have like a small talk and she's like, "Well, why did you even save me then?" And he's like, "Ugh." And then his sister and brother come up and they ask if she's getting on the bus, and he goes, "No, this bus is full," as he looks at her and like shoos her away. That's like half the whole fucking movie. Like, at no point at any level of that film is there any like romantic tension between them. It's so weird. It's so disconcerting. Like, it just feels uncomfortable every step of the way. It's like pure disdain for one another. And like I understand everyone critiqued the acting, but it is so true how awful the acting is across the board. I want to pull up a scene, and it's one that I watched on stream, which is what sold me on it. It's the baseball scene. This is in the first movie, and I didn't know that. So he takes her to baseball pretty quickly after what I just told you with the bus thing, where he's like, this bus is full. And, you know, shoo, bitch, get the fuck out of here. Fucking whore, harpy, run. Get away from me. And then he, like, ends up inviting her to a baseball game with his family of vampires. And this shit is so stupid.
I know you cheat.
And the whole movie is so ugly because they have this awful, like, blue filter on everything. Comfortable, it's so weird. And we watched the extended director's cut, which was only like an additional 6 minutes of staring at each other. So when these people come up, the only time we've seen them is they kill some guy on a boat, implied kill. And then he makes out with her, and this guy smiles and watches for like 15 seconds. I shit you not. That was one of the extended director's cut scenes that they threw in there. Him watching these two make out. And it goes on for an uncomfortable duration. So he's apparently chief cuck of this vampire team, and then they come out here to play baseball, but then everything goes awry because he smells Bella, and he likes her smell. So now he's hunting Bella, and that's the enemy. It's so unbelievably dumb. Like, I couldn't believe what I was watching. I couldn't believe it. These movies were wildly popular. And yet, it is terrible. It's not good as romance. It's not good as anything. Nothing works. In all the right ways. It was fun bad. It was actually fun bad. Are you Team Edward or Team Jacob? So we only started the second Twilight, New Moon. We're 40 minutes in, but Aaron fell asleep after 20 minutes, so we decided we'll just postpone it till tomorrow and pick it up again. We'll have to rewind it to catch him up. But right now, Jacob is the only one that can actually even talk to Bella without just, relentlessly insulting and belittling her. Every time Edward talks to her, it's just mainly insults and being weird and edgy. One of the things he says, I shit you not, while they're in class and they're watching Romeo and Juliet, he says, man, you know, I really envy them. And Bella goes, why, you know, Juliet's perfect and their love and all that. And he's like, no, because they can kill themselves. No, I envy their suicide. It's so stupid. And that's like half of his lines. So yeah, we finished the first one. The second one's already off to a crazy start. In the second one, the big conflict that happens right away is a scene that we also saw. It's the paper cut scene. So what happens here, it's like right off rip. He's taking Bella to, like, her birthday party with the vampires here, and she cuts her finger. And Jasper, this guy who's in a state of perpetual Vietnam flashbacks, sees the blood after she cuts herself on the present, and this guy just has a fucking breakdown. So he, like, charges her. Edward then pushes Bella all the way against this, breaking all of this glass, shattering it all on her arm where she's bleeding even more, and then he looks at her so disappointed. Like, you bitch, how could you bleed in front of my family? Have you no shame? So then he breaks up with her because she bled. The logic being, I guess he wanted to protect her because she bleeds. I am so drawn into the lunacy of this franchise. I had no idea it was like this. I thought it was just standard romance, like absolute garbage, throwaway schlock. It is so special in how unapologetically, nonsensically stupid it is. It doesn't even do the romance right. Or at all, for that matter. And there's 5 of these bitches, too. There's 5 Twilight movies. Maybe that's the reason they're so popular? I don't know. I remember people, like, really losing their goddamn mind about how romantic it was. Like, 50 Shades of Grey was Twilight fanfic. So people got really into this series. And I don't get how. Like, even the... I'll pull up another scene real quick. Even the introduction of Edward is so uncomfortable and weird. Because it's all about she's stinky. Or, well, actually the opposite of stinky. Her aroma is intoxicating. So she walks into that cliche was 100% accurate. But man, I had no idea what we were in for. It is so good in all the worst ways. The third video's description. This is the part where Edward wants to bite Bella's face off and drink her blood in science class. Hot. Like I said, we're only 1 movie deep. Aaron fell asleep mid-second movie, so we're gonna have to pick it up tomorrow. I thought it was blasphemous that he fell asleep. I don't even know how he could, because it was literally non-stop nonsense. It might have just overwhelmed his brain and shut it off. Because like I said, the second one actually starts with her bleeding and Edward being super upset that she bleeds. So then he breaks up with her and they move. And then she sits inside for like 5 fucking months sending emails to a disabled email. Until then she goes to Jacob's place to fix up a bike. It's so dumb. Like, Bella has no reason to even like Edward. She immediately falls in love with him and becomes completely fucking obsessed to the point where once they break up, she has night terrors every single night for 5 months. Because they're broken up. But there was nothing Edward ever did that was anything resembling love. Oh, that's another thing. The sparkles. So, I had always heard the meme of like sparkle, glitter vampires, Twilight shit, garbage, not real vampires, not glitter vampires. I thought it was just an expression for them being like super silly and not intimidating, just really lame. They actually fucking sparkle. There's a scene in this movie where he's like, you're gonna have to see what I look like in the sun. I want you to see the real me. And I expected him to go in the sun and fucking melt and look like the goddamn thing from Total Recall that pops out of that dude's chest. Like, I thought he was gonna be this repulsive ooze of a person. Like Deadpool without the suit on. He goes into the sun, he turns around and he's the same goddamn guy, but he has sparkles on his chest. I had no clue. It was a crazy plot twist. He's like, we can't go outside in the day or else people would see we're different. Because they're sparkling. So he's like, get on my back, and he gives her a turbo speed piggyback ride, and he's like, it's time you see. Which at first I honestly thought he was just fuzzy. So I thought the thing was he had a bunch of peach fuzz and it was embarrassing. He couldn't grow real chest hair. But that's not it. He's sparkling. Did I teleport back to 2010 when Twilight was relevant? You actually have. You're right now in a fucking wormhole, a time vortex, because I'm watching this franchise for the first time and I'm fucking blown away by how bad it is. It is shocking. I am absolutely loving it. Is it Moonfall level though? It's not Moonfall level yet, but there is 5 of these, so it could get there. It really could. And it's off to a great start to getting there. Because again, it has so much runway with 5 of these fucking things. What she says to her dad when she leaves is brutal. It was also a stupid plan. Yeah, at the end of the movie, like, once that guy smells her and she's like, and he says, like, damn, that's a good stink. Man, that odorous Methodist is really, you know, driving me wild. They immediately recognize that he's going to track her forever. So Edward's plan was the baseball guy. Where is he? His name's like James or something. Yeah, James. So this guy sniffed her at the baseball game, and they're like, okay, he's going to track her forever now. He's going to be obsessed, which he was. So the plan was, in order to save her dad, Edward told her that she needs to like break his heart and leave the state. So she just drops like the hardest, like meanest shit to her dad, who's done nothing wrong. He's just been like this real sad, lonely dad. And she breaks his fucking heart. And Aaron made a good point. She could have just told him she was going on a field trip. Like, she didn't need to go that hard. She could have literally just said that she was going on a field trip. It was entirely unnecessary. I don't make love, I fuck hard. That I still think is one of the... I made a whole video dedicated to that line. I still think that's one of the best lines in cinema history. That's from 50 Shades of Grey, 50 Shades 3, I don't remember what it's called. 50 Shades Super Grey, the third one. Or no, the first one. It's the first one. Yeah, it is the first one, not the third one. He actually says that. Yeah, he makes her sign a contract. And then she says, are you going to make love to me now? So he leans down and he says, I don't make love. I fuck hard. It was epic. Goosebumps every time. Also, it was super cute because Aaron and Meadow had Twilight shirts on today, so we were really in the zone. Aaron was rocking Team Jacob. Meadow had Team Edward. It was not Rari. I really don't remember what it was. Moist Meter Twilight Saga? No, but I'll probably do these debriefings after each movie. On stream. I mean, I've already been fucking ranting about it for like 15 minutes now. I have so many thoughts on it. If I was to plug it into the Moist Meter, I'd be giving it all the way up to like an 85. This is a very fucking fun, bad movie. But like realistically, like objectively as a movie, it'd be like a 20 at most. but I always heavily weigh the fun of a film. That's what I expected, but it's not. Like, even their action scenes are full of entertaining cringe, like the baseball thing, or, when he saved Bella from that ragtag group of dudes who were, like, hustling sideways on it. Audio? I don't want it to get, like, DMCA'd, because I don't know how that's gonna work with Twilight, to be honest with you. But you don't need the audio. That's the beauty of their acting. Their actions speak louder than words. Distract me so I don't turn around. Oh yeah, they're driving away and he's like fucking hyperventilating. And he's like mad at her. The entire ride, like, home, he's like mad at her for it. He's like, distract me so I don't turn around and rip their heads off. And then he just gets like real aggressive with her. And then they eventually both like touch the air conditioning and their hands touch. And then he gives her like the nastiest fucking look of all time. He's like, oh my god, fucking dare you, bitch. You fucking bitch. He's 109 years old. He's not 2,000. And also his backstory is really silly. So the whole story is the Cullen family comes from one guy, Dr. Cullen. I forgot his name. Is like Carlio, something like that. And he's a doctor. His whole thing is he wants to help people. But if he can't save them, he turns them into a vampire to save them. And Edward was the first one back in 1918. But if that's really the case, and he's been a doctor for this many years, over 100 years now, he would have definitely had more than like 6 vampires that he'd turn. If his whole thing is, I'm saving everyone I can, he would have absolutely like turned 1,000, 10,000 people by this point as a fucking doctor. He's not gonna be able to save all of them. So who is he picking and choosing? Did you mention the scene where he asks her about Jacksonville, then she trips and he calls her a fucking idiot for tripping? That's what I was talking about. That's at the, like the hemp farm or wherever they went. I don't know. Where they were composting. That's what I was talking about. Like, I forgot the conversation was about Jacksonville, but he was like, he overheard her mention Jacksonville. And he's like, well, what's in Jacksonville? And then he like kind of, I thought he nudged her, but maybe she just tripped. So she like loses her balance and like trips and he grabs her and he's like, oh my god, look, can you look where you're going? Yeah, I mentioned that. Well, we finished all 5 movies. There's no Twilight left to be watched, and being honest, I am actually pretty upset about it, because I know this series was so special. We will never again get to experience a franchise that ran this long and continuously got worse. Unapologetic filth, trash, garbage that at no point ever found its footing into something even mediocre. It was more than happy to exist as a truly awful stain on cinema. Everything humans have learned over the course of 100 years of filmmaking was completely thrown out the window, and they wiped their ass with anything even remotely good about movies in order to create the Twilight series. And for that, I have nothing but the utmost respect for the team. It is incredible what they were able to accomplish here. An actual achievement of shit. Like, a genuine magnum opus for the worst reasons. The Twilight series is extremely entertainingly bad. It's never boring bad, which I can't stress enough. I can't believe that for 5 movies they never got boring bad. They just kept getting worse and worse in the most entertaining ways. So, I finished Breaking Dawn Part 1 and 2, and my mind was somehow blown yet again by just how fucking terrible they are. So I'll go ahead and give you my debriefing on all of them as we say goodbye to a beloved franchise that I now consider to be a very special series of movies in my life, because holy shit, they were so much fucking fun to watch and laugh at. Yeah, we finished Twilight today. I feel like the second the credits rolled on Breaking Dawn Part 2, I lost a piece of myself that I'll never get back. Like, there's a little hole in my soul now. Because there will never be a franchise as unapologetically awful as this. 5 movies that never stopped getting worse. All the way up until the end. I thought people were exaggerating. It actually just continues to get worse and worse. Not only in terms of like writing, plot, characters, and pretty much everything you'd expect in a film, but even visually. Like, in the final movie, it was by far the worst so, like, up to that point. In fact, probably just the worst in all of big budget cinema. So, apparently the baby's a big deal. Most of you have probably seen this CGI baby. That's I'm getting ahead of myself. You know, how about we'll start with Breaking Dawn Part 1. Actually, that might just be more intuitive. Breaking Dawn Part 1 picks up where Eclipse left off, kind of, I guess. So they're going to their wedding. Bella and Edward's wedding. And they're like building up some kind of tension with it. Jake's like, man, this is so fucking cringe. I'm gonna take my shirt off and run in the rain for the 50th fucking time. And then it comes to the wedding. I thought something was gonna go wrong, like some kind of attack or something, but nothing ever did. They just get married while Bella looks like she's going to puke the entire time and looks genuinely repulsed to be around Edward. And it's not until after they're married where Edward's like, I've got a wedding gift for you. So he takes her out back. And I thought he was about to, like, put her down like a rabid animal or something. Like, it was really ominous. He's like, I got a fucking wedding gift for you, but it needs to be in a secluded area. So he takes her out behind the wedding venue and brings her Jacob, the guy that she has cheated on him with 3 times. And he's like, I'm going to leave you guys alone now. So she runs up crying and hugging Jake. And for the first time in this movie, she starts to smile. Like, she looked nothing but uncomfortable and miserable around Edward. He brings out Jake, and she's like fucking giddy and excited. And then and then she says something about how she's not going to turn into a vampire yet because they wanted to wait till after the honeymoon so that way they could enjoy sex. And Jake fucking flips. He takes her by the shoulders and starts shaking her like Homer Simpson strangling Bart. And he's like, are you fucking stupid? Are you stupid? He's going to kill you. Because one of the things is he's a virgin and they haven't had sex because he's afraid that he'd literally break her, like blow her up from being too strong to fuck her. So when he hears that, he's like, oh my god, she's gonna get dead, fucking pussy overload. So he calls her stupid and starts like spitting and shouting. And Edward's like, calm down, man, calm down. He's like, no, you're gonna kill her, and I'm gonna kill you. So then he storms off again. So then, fast forward, they're on their honeymoon after the wedding. They're on a secluded island, and she doesn't want to be a vampire yet. She wants to have sex as a human so she could feel it without, you know, losing her soul. Because when she turns into a vampire, she loses her soul in the process, whatever. So it begins like this cat and mouse game of her trying to seduce Edward in the worst ways imaginable. Like, it's all like robotic. It's almost animatronic to a certain extent. And then eventually she just pulls the old Reddit naked man, where she just literally gets naked and then just walks up to Edward. And then it's in the ocean. So there's like moonlight going on there, and then they start kissing and fiddling around a bit. Then they go to the bed, and Edward immediately breaks the whole bed, so he like, I guess the second he felt her touched orgasmed and like fucking blasted the entire bed to pieces. And then they finish. She's got like bruises and Edward feels bad. He's like, oh my god, I fucking hurt you. I've ruined everything. And then Bella's just like, no, it was like the best night of my life. And he's like, no, it's not. I fucking killed you. You're like super dead. I hurt you. Look at all these bruises. And it goes on for such a painfully long amount of time. And then, I shit you not, the next fucking scene, like the next morning after this, she pukes into a toilet and it's revealed she's instantly pregnant. They had sex one time and played chess the other 90% of the time they were on vacation, literally just playing chess. And she gets pregnant instantly. So that's the major plot point of Breaking Dawn. So all of the drama is completely materialized in this movie. At no point did anything build up to it. It just happens all over the place. Which convinces me even further that the writer had no clue what the fuck to do with this story at all, and nothing was actually thought out. It's just all ass pulls constantly, which makes it so beautiful. So she's now pregnant, and Edward's freaking out. He's now having PTSD. So they're trying to figure out what to do. Do they abort the baby? Does she have the baby? And the big problem is, since it's a vampire baby, it's super strong, so it's killing her from the inside out, which is what this is. Bella, the baby is crushing you. So as the baby is growing, it's breaking all of her bones in her body. So they eventually go back to the Carlisle's place, the Cullens mansion, and they get there. Jacob eventually finds out, and he's fucking pissed. He's so mad. He's like, "You broke the treaty. She's gonna die from this baby now." And then all of the other werewolves, for some reason, care so badly about this. Like, they get so bent out of shape, and there's so much to digest. So initially, it was only Jacob who cared because obviously he loved Bella, and now he's getting, you know, fucking cucked here or whatever. So the girl he loves is now pregnant with another man's baby, and she's back, and she's still sending him confusing signals about being in love with him, and he's still in love with her. So he's mad about it, and he's like, "Gonna kill that baby. We gotta do something about this," to the pack leader. And the pack leader's like, "Nah, it's not that big of a deal. Doesn't matter." And Jake's like, "No, we have to do something about it." But then 20 minutes later, Jake is like, "All right, we have to protect the Bella and the baby." And the pack leader, who minutes ago was like, "Hey, it's not a big deal, it's fine, this isn't our fight," all of a sudden decides that he needs to hunt down and kill the Cullens. Like, I don't know if I missed something, but like, he knew all of this information prior, and he was okay with it, but the second, like, it starts happening, he's like, "Okay, now we have to kill all the Cullens." Even though only minutes ago he was like totally fine with it. It's not, like, completely nonsensical. I think what happened is Stephanie Meyer, the writer, realized that there was no actual, like, villain or conflict, so they made something up out of nowhere. It's like, and she couldn't think of anything, so she just had to, like, flip a switch in the pack leader's brain to make it a war. So he was like, "Well, technically, he hurt her, which is against our treaty and our truce. So now we're gonna kill her," which is exactly what Jake had said that he argued against, like, moments before. It was so all over the place. So anyway, she's pregnant. Now the werewolves that have been their friends for a while are no longer their friends and are actively trying to kill them. And Jake is still mad, but still cares about Bella very much. And he's convinced she's going to die from this pregnancy, giving birth to this vampire baby that's going to kill her. Edward feels the same way. All the other vampires are like, "Look, if you go through with this baby, it's going to kill you." And she's like, "That's fine. That's okay. No, it's all good." So that's kind of like most of the movie. And eventually it culminates with her being super pregnant, and they realize that she's starving because the baby's feeding off her like a parasite. So she has to start drinking blood to feed the baby, which makes the baby even stronger, breaking more of her bones. And then I have to pull up the scene because you have to see this. The shock and awe on my face when this scene happened will never be replicated in cinema history. So what happened? Actually, I don't even want to tell you. You need to experience this raw. So, she drops her styrofoam sippy cup of blood, and in an effort to pick it up, breaks her spine, which severs the placenta inside her tummy, which means now they have to act in an emergency situation in order to C-section the baby out. So that's exactly what they do. That scene was almost startling when that happened. Out of fucking nowhere. So she was going over names for the baby, and I shit you not, one of them was literally Edward Jacobs. So combining Edward and the other love of her life, Jacob, which would have been the ultimate cuckoldry if they actually went through with that. But then they settle on something called Renesmee, which is a horrible name. A horrible, horrible name. And then that happens, the placenta snaps. And so now they're in this situation. It's an emergency C-section. They're all acting quick. Jasper and Alice have to leave the room because the blood's making them go into a frenzy. They get real hungry. Rose has to leave as well for the same reason. So then it's just Jake and Edward doing the C-section, basically. And they get the baby out, and Bella dies. Edward's desperately, like, biting on her like he's licking, or like he's chewing the last remaining bits of a chicken wing, trying desperately to turn her into a vampire to save her life. It's not working, but the baby's okay. Meanwhile, while this is happening, the werewolves are trying to break in and kill everyone because just because the treaty. But yeah, I get it. The treaty is like, I guess, sacred, even though it hasn't been broken. At least not according to Sam initially, but now apparently Sam's changed his mind. So they're attacking because the treaty was broken. So the vampires are fending them off in order to keep Renesmee safe. Jake then decides like he's going to stop everything. He'll become the alpha. So he does. So after Jake or no, actually it was before that. Bella's dead. People are already forgetting about her. They're moving on with their life. Renesmee is getting all the attention. Rose has got Renesmee. Jake is still pretty upset Bella's dead, but he goes back into the house and it looks like he's ready to kill the baby because he blames it for the death of Bella. And as he's approaching the baby, there's this scene where the CGI baby, this fucking abominable creature, looks at him while he's like lurking in the background about to murder her, and they lock eyes, and then immediately like the whole future is laid out in front of them, and Jake is going on about how this baby needs a protector, a hero, a savior. So he drops to his knees, and it turns out he imprinted on the baby that thing that I was criticizing from the previous films because it was so meaningless. The whole thing about how when you imprint on someone, it's like a love for life kind of deal. So he literally imprints on an infant, a newborn, which is so fucking weird. I couldn't believe they had the chutzpah to say that with a straight face. So they turn Jake into like a pedophile guardian, basically, where it's like he's waiting for her to grow up so they can be together, and until then he protects her. And that is the conclusion, by the way. Apparently the two of them do ride off in the sunset together, Renesmee and Jacob, so it's really fucking creepy. So yeah, he imprints on this baby. Oh, and I forgot one of the wildest parts. You remember how Edward can read minds? Well, while Bella's still pregnant, he puts his hand on her tummy and starts reading the baby's mind. And he's like, oh, it says, it likes the sound of your voice. And it says, it thinks that you're going to be a great mom and can't wait to come out here. And I lost my shit. I was like, what the fuck? This baby's already, like, speaking English? like, good lord, it's about to give birth to young Sheldon, is what Aaron said. Like, the fucking thing's already in there speaking fluent English, I guess, to Edward. So he's reading the baby's mind and shit. So when the baby comes out, it's like super wise and full of wisdom. And it has the gift of being able to project its memories into the brain of whoever it touches. So the baby's like putting its little fucking hands on people's faces, and it's really creepy, and projecting its first memories into their brain. So that's kind of where Breaking Dawn Part 1 ends, with the whole imprinting thing. So now Jacob's going to be fated to fall in love with Renesmee. Well, he's already in love with Renesmee as a fucking toddler. So now it's just waiting until she turns 18, or resembles that of an 18-year-old, I guess. So that was super weird. That was super, super weird. And then in Breaking Dawn Part 2, I think Stephanie Myers realized that they still don't have, like, a villain. They can't just keep using the werewolves on this very loose treaty loophole thing. So then she brings back in the Volturi, or whatever the fuck they're called, that cult of vampires, like the High Council. She finally remembers that they existed, and brings them in as the main bad guys. So what ends up happening is Bella awakens, she's been turned, surprise, she's a vampire, she survives. And now she's learning to be a vampire, and she immediately masters it, in under an hour, she speedruns it. That thing they were talking about, how difficult it is to control your hunger, and how it takes like 100 years before you can finally be normal. Fucking Jasper, the Confederate soldier in the family, is still not able to control his hunger, which is why he has to keep leaving the room. But Bella, within minutes, can do it effortlessly. There's a rock climber while they're out in the woods who cuts himself on some rocks. Bella climbs up to him and she's like, I gotta get out of here. So then she jumps off of a giant fucking cliff, probably to fall to her death, I don't know. And Edward's like, what a woman. And he jumps after her. So she immediately masters that. They were also going to just pretend like she was dead to her dad, who's already an alcoholic and suffering from immense depression because of her daughter being always miserable and a downer around him. So he's already drowned himself in alcohol for all 4 of these movies, and they were just going to let him believe that his daughter died in a Switzerland hospital. And it's not until Jacob is like, hey guys, this is kind of fucked up, right? Like, he's already miserable. Dude's drowning in PBR. Like, the least we can do is just let him know, like, she's okay. So he goes over to Charlie's house and he's like, Charlie, that's the dad's name, I've got something to show you. And he starts stripping, so he takes off his shirt and his boots and his pants. And the dad's like, Jacob, what does this have to do with anything? So then he turns into a werewolf to show him, like, things aren't always as they seem. And then tells him that, you know, Bella's alive, but she's different. So then he brings Charlie over to the vampire's house, and Bella's like, yeah, I just can't tell you, but trust me, I'm okay. Also, that's my daughter. And by this point, the daughter's rapidly aging, so the daughter's already, like, resembling a 3-year-old. And they use CGI as well. It's not just the CGI baby, they use CGI in the actual child actress. So every time you see her, it's like really bad Snapchat face filter tracking on her face. So it always looks like something's off. Like her face is on the bottom right side, like her eyes, nose, mouth is like the bottom right side of her face for half of the film, which is really off-putting. So he's like, okay, coochie coochie coo, that's your baby, cool cool cool. All right, I'm gonna leave. Glad you're okay. I'm gonna go back and fucking butt chug more PBR. And then the High Council. Oh, hold on, I got ahead of myself. Then she takes Renesmee out into the woods once she ages up to like a 5-year-old by the next day, and she's like teaching her how to be a vampire. And she jumps up to grab a snowflake, and then another vampire, part of the Cullen family who lives in Alaska, just happened to be nearby and saw this and panicked, thinking that it was an immortal child, which is a forbidden thing in the Twilight universe, I guess, where these vampire children come around once every now and then. And it's like this big affront to their society, so they instantly execute them. And I'll quickly show you a scene of what this looks like with the immortal children. So this is Dakota Fanning. She's part of the High Council. She's the one that can project pain onto people. So they have to kill these immortal children. So they kill the mom here because it's such a bad thing. And then they also have to kill the baby. And they do it in a really ceremonious way. This is how they execute the baby. So that takes care of that. Banished straight to hell. So once that lady sees Renesmee, she's like, holy fuck, another immortal child. I have to report this to the High Council. This is terrible. So she goes to the High Council. It's like, there's an immortal child. And they're like, all right, assemble the troops. We got to throw some more kids into a fire. ASAP. Fucking potato sack them. So then the Volturi or whatever, Voltorbs, fucking Voltron Force, whatever, they assemble. They move out on the Cullens, and Alice gets a vision of this war happening. And then Alice is like, I'm going to leave and I'm taking Jasper. I'm not telling anyone what I saw. So she just leaves without any explanation and leaves behind a couple of clues to Bella, even though she could have just said everything from the beginning to save everyone the trouble, but whatever. So she just dips. She just says, I'm out, ski. And then the rest of this film is assembling a ragtag crew of Avengers to fight against the Volturi Council. And it sucks ass. It is the worst part of the entire series. It is literally just grabbing random vampires that have different abilities that range from water bending to taser fingers. It's so stupid. Oh, and also the waterbender is Rami Malek. The Rami Malek. He can do more than waterbend. He controls elements. But it's basically like waterbending and shit. There's some chef, awful, hobo, fix, and they give some cup and prime creamy. So they're traveling all over the world and getting this crew of vampires together, and they're bringing Renesmee on this like world tour where she goes around and just touches people's faces in order to prove that she is half human, half vampire, which is crazy shit. She's not an immortal child. She's a half human, half vampire. Never been seen before, and they're all losing their mind like, okay, we will literally sacrifice everything for this toddler. Everything. Everything we've ever known, we will literally sacrifice for them.
because she touched our face and showed us some goofy memories. And among this group of vampires, there's one guy who has like 12 lines in the movie. I can't remember what his name is, like All-Star or something, I don't know. But he is indecipherable. They must have told him to do some goofy accent, but didn't give him any indication. So his first line, he comes in, he's got blonde hair and a beard, and he's like really mysterious, and he looks like he'd be really powerful, but you never actually see him do anything. So he comes around and he comes out from behind the car, and the camera pans to him, and I thought it was going to be an impactful moment, and he literally says, "Hey, and then like runs away." Like, I think it was English, but the accent they told him to do was completely gibberish. Actual gibberish. It came out there like SpongeBob on Leif Erikson Day. A hinga-dinga-durgan. It wasn't even words. All of us, when we were watching it, asked each other what he just said. It was so stupid. It was so fucking stupid. And then he scurries away and then jumps up into the attic. And that's like half of the vampires that show up. They also get together like fucking My Chemical Romance vampires. These two like German guys, I think. And they're like, we're here to help, but not even because we care about like Renesmee or being the half mortal, half vampire thing, but because we don't like the High Council. They're kind of cringe. And that's their whole thing. There's the resub Trey, Prime Chad, Zeus, and the gift sub, or the tier 1 Creamy. And the resub Dank. Was just talking about that, Smokey. It was fucking awful. So then, that guy, I really thought was going to have a big role to play, especially in the war, because they're hyping up this imminent war. It is coming. They are ready to fight. And he even has a couple of scenes going into there where he's like just kind of lurking in the background, looking on like a mentor almost. And then even says a couple more things. Like he'll come into a room and he'll be like, and then that'll be his input. And then he'll do that again. And then the final battle comes around, and they keep hyping this guy up like this guy is serious business. And then the battle comes around, and he's not even there. Like, he's not even there, I don't think. I don't remember even seeing him in the battle. He didn't do anything. He is completely pointless. Fucking pointless. Doesn't look like it. He's not in any of these scenes. Well, he is in this scene here. He's a guy up in the tree looking on, but where's his line? Like his very impactful line of actual fucking Animal Crossing speak. Where is that? I don't remember where I left off. But anyway, they're still prepping for the war. Now all of a sudden the werewolves are totally okay with everything because Jacob imprinted on a baby. So they're like, alright, we won't hurt them anymore. We'll leave them alone. In fact, we'll actually fight with you. In fact, we'll risk our entire pack in order to protect this baby that Jacob has just imprinted on. So now all the werewolves are on the vampire side. And they're ready to stand against the High Council as well. Meanwhile, since there's so many vampires coming to Forks, there's more werewolves being formed. So there's like a scene where some kids are in a forest and they're like, oh, ooh, ouch, oh. And then he turns into a werewolf and Jacob is like, calm down. It's okay. So now there's more werewolves and they're all ready to risk it all for the vampires that in the last movie they were trying to kill. They go through training. Bella learns that she can project her shield, which is the thing that rejects all of the other vampire gifts. The thing where like Edward can't read her mind, no one on the High Council can hurt her with her or read anything about her. Probably because she's so fucking stupid she doesn't have real thoughts to read. She's learned how to project that stupidness shield around anyone. So now she can like focus really hard and project that to protect people. A little force field. So then we get to the climactic showdown. They're in the giant snow battleground. High Council has shown up. They have like a little army. They have, on Carlisle's side, they have like pretty decent amount of people as well. And they're ready to fucking clash. They're ready to get after it. But yeah, he does nothing. I don't even think he's in the final battle. I think the actor might have quit before it even came to that scene. Or they forgot about him. I don't really know. So they're showing down in the final climactic beatdown, I guess. And Alice and Jasper come out of the woodwork. And it's a big moment, like, Alice is back, whoa! And she goes over to the High Council side. And it's like, Well, actually, before that, that lady that snitched on him, the tattletale, eventually they're like, "Is this the little girl you saw, that Renesmee?" And she's like, "I don't know." She's like fucking 20 years older now because she keeps aging like Benjamin Button. So she's like, "I'm not sure. It must have been wrong. They're probably innocent." And they're like, "We don't tolerate mistakes." So they rip her arms and head off and she dies. They light her on fire too. And then Alice comes out and it's like, "Touch me so that way you can see the future." So he does. And then that's when Alice realizes that no matter what she shows him, the bad guy was bent on a fight no matter what. So that's when the war breaks out. Alice hits him with a capoeira kick that sends him flying, and then all hell breaks loose. So you got the vampires running each other, the werewolves are coming in as well. And it's all pretty awful. Like, it's usually just one or two things that happen. So all the vampires fight like my cat does when she plays with a toy, just like pawing everything. So all the vampires are like slapping each other around, fucking patting each other on the chest. Some of them like get turned to glass. And then a couple werewolves die. So Seth, who I haven't even mentioned yet because he was such an unimportant character, Seth dies because one of the vampires gets him in a headlock. Then eventually Rami Malek's character, the element bender, slams a hole into the earth that splits it in half with this giant ravine that leads into a volcano. So then a lot of the bad vampires fall in there. But then so too does a werewolf named Leah, I think, who was like a good person, I guess. I don't know, she didn't do anything. Her whole storyline was that she was in love with the previous pack leader, but he dumped her to fuck another woman. So she's got a pretty tragic backstory, and she never actually finds closure. She finishes this movie, well, she dies completely alone with the man she loves fucking another girl, meanwhile still leading her on. So hers is probably the saddest out of the whole film. And then Carlisle jumped at the bad guy and gets decapitated by the bad guy, so he's dead, which, you know, very tragic, I guess. Who else? More fighting. These, like, Euro metal vampires, they don't do anything, even though their whole thing is about, like, being powerful and out for revenge. But eventually the good vampires start to get the edge. Dakota Fanning's pain vampire is getting thwarted by Bella because she's blocking everything. So eventually she gets taken and thrown to the wolves who kill her. And it all leads up to Edward and Bella fighting the main High Council vampire. And they rip his head off and light him on fire. He dies. And what happens next had me audibly shout, "No way." Because I didn't believe anything would ever actually do this in the modern... Well, I guess this is a 10-year-old movie now. But that's still modern enough where this trope I would have expected to be long dead. So what happens is, after the main vampire dies and gets lit on fire, it zooms in on his eyes as they're about to be lit on fire, and then it zooms out. Turns out, it was all a dream. It was all Alice's vision. So when she walked up and put her hand in his hand so he could see everything she sees, he saw the future, which was that whole fight we just watched. It wasn't real. It was a vision. They literally pulled "it was just a dream." I was actually disgusted. So after he sees that if they fight, he'll lose, he's like, "This is no good. This is no good." And then out of fucking nowhere yet again, the main bad guy's brother, who's also on the High Council, is like, "Brother, but that could be a danger." And he's like, panicking. And Alice is like, "Won't be a danger. I promise." And then two random fucking people we have never seen before start walking across the snow slowly. And they're like, "Hello. I am a half-human, half-vampire. I'm 1,500 years old. I'm 150 years old. And I'm just fine. We're not a threat to you. She's not the only one." And that was proof enough to the High Council that this is okay and can actually be celebrated. And that's how it stops. That's pretty much where it ends. Well, that's not where it ends. Now everyone's good, everyone's happy. It's all, nothing but great stuff all around. Wonderful conclusion. So the battle is thwarted, everyone goes home, and everyone is happier knowing that there is now Renesmee, half human, half vampire, the future of their race, whatever. So, it's a happily ever after. Edward and Bella keep fucking. Bella also, since she's learned to control her projection, or her shield, like her gift, which shuts everyone out, she terminates it for a moment, lets her guard down in order for Edward to finally read her blank fucking mind. So then it's this really emotional montage of going through all 5 Twilight movies from the beginning. And it's a really cute idea, actually. I actually really appreciated the idea of it. But what's very painfully obvious is not a single time throughout any of these 5 movies has she ever smiled around Edward. So they have this AMV where he's like reading her mind and seeing all of their best moments together from the very beginning, where she was like really shy and, coy, but like loved him. And not once does she smile. Not a single smile. Not one. Just misery. And meanwhile, it's supposed to be like really emotional and like happy and upbeat, but it was just sad. It was so sad. So he reads her mind, and that's great. And then there's like a flash forward to the future. Jacob and Renesmee are fucking in love, married or whatever. They're dating. Edward and Bella still happily in love. Well, not happily. No such thing with Bella. It's all just neutral. They're together still. And then the credits roll. That's where the fucking franchise ends. I gotta tell you, when it was going through the credits, they did it in a very tasteful way, actually. They literally brought up every character that ever existed for even a single second and like credited the actor who played them. Even the unnamed ones from Breaking Dawn Part 2 from like their group of Avengers that literally did nothing, actually nothing. They credited them. It was really cute. And they also credited ones that weren't even in this film, so like the original cast with Anna Kendrick in them. It was cute, and I actually felt myself realizing like, wow, this was special. I will never see a series this shamelessly awful again. It won't happen. At no point does it ever gain even a modicum of self-awareness. It stays perfectly content being horrible. And I actually got kind of sad. This existed in the perfect time period where the internet wasn't like it is today. So like Twitter wasn't as popular. You still had Tumblr, but it wasn't as popular. YouTube and everything was really just starting to take off. So they never got feedback from fans, from like the general populace. They only got fans. So they became deluded into thinking it was good, I think. Because they only ever saw the huge numbers, and I think it grossed like $3 billion across all 5 movies. Very financially profitable. Huge, huge, huge franchise. All they saw was positives. Teenage girls loved it. Team Edward and Team Jacob, cultural phenomenon. Everyone was talking about it. All they knew is that it was very popular and it was beloved by its target audience. So it just kept getting worse. Meanwhile, in today's day and age, there is no way you don't know if something's bad. It existed in the perfect time period so it could stay oblivious to how horrible it was. We will never get something like this series again. Like, I'm actually sad that there's not going to be anything we watch from now on that's going to be this long running and this shitty. This went on for 6 years. 6 years. We got these fucking stinkers. My favorite bad movie is still Moonfall. Moonfall I still think clears by far as the best shitty film ever made. But this is an entire shitty series, is what you don't understand. This is 5 movies of shit that only gets stinkier. Are you Team Edward now? Well, absolutely, I'm Team Edward now. Fucking Jacob imprints on a child, not even a child, a baby. A literal baby. Yeah, I'm Team Edward. Favorite movie from the franchise? My favorite one is still Eclipse. I think they get progressively shittier and like very fun shitty, but Eclipse is still the best because like there's like 3 times in that film where Bella blatantly cheats on Edward in front of him, and he's like okay with it, which just had me giggling. There's an expression I'm sure you've all heard before. It's about the journey, not the destination. And that couldn't be more true. In fact, the destination is the saddest part of the whole adventure when it comes to watching all of the Twilight movies. Finishing them isn't something I'm looking forward to because I know it's going to be bittersweet. I posted a video a few days ago where I kind of debriefed after watching the first and half of the second movie. I embarked on this quest with Aaron, Meadow, and Tiana to watch all of the Twilight films together because I was told that they were fun bad, like super shitty but in a really entertaining way. So I'd never seen them prior to this and decided to get the gang together to indulge. And it has been an incredible journey. We recently finished New Moon and Eclipse, the third movie, which means there's only 2 films remaining, which we plan on watching this weekend. And I just wanted to do kind of what I did already and debrief on what we've watched so far. So this will be me going over Twilight New Moon and Twilight Eclipse. This series is only improving. And by improving, I mean like getting worse, but in a really enjoyable way. Yeah, we can talk about Twilight now. We finished New Moon and Eclipse today. So there's a lot to unpack here with these next 2. It seems they learned a lot from the first movie on how to make it even worse. So they took everything that didn't work in the first film and amplified all of those scenes. Edward's taking Bella to this birthday party with the vampire. She gets a paper cut and bleeds a little bit, so Jasper, he has PTSD, he fucking flips a switch and tries to murder her. Edward throws her back, she cuts herself again, and this makes Edward leave her because she bled. So he's like, in order to protect you, I've got to leave, so I'm leaving. And he does. So he's away for like 6 months, and during that 6 months, Bella gets closer to Jacob. And those 2 hit it off. She keeps talking about how warm Jacob is, and he's a werewolf. You know, it's this big, awful romance thing. And what's crazy is, much like Edward, Jacob also has like uncontrollable fucking awful anger out of nowhere from time to time, and there is still, once again, nothing but pure disdain and revulsion from Bella like half the time. So this one's all about her getting close to Jacob. They're about to kiss. Edward's in like Rio de Janeiro or something, and he tries to call Bella. Jacob answers and says that her dad's at a funeral. So Edward thinks she killed herself, so then Edward decides he's going to kill himself. So then he goes up to, like, the vampire high council for suicide. You team Edward or team Jacob? I was team Jacob, probably still am, because at the very least, he's not perpetually gaslighting and manipulating Bella. But he is also completely fucking unhinged. In the third movie, I think it was the third movie, he's just having a conversation with her about Edward and how she loves Edward, and during the conversation, he just, like, kisses her, and then she punches him in the face and breaks her hand on his face. And he also has these absolutely violent mood swings as well, so he's fixing a bike one time, and Edward came up as a conversational topic, and he says, "I'm tired of it!" So he takes a fucking wrench and throws it right by her head against a wall and blasts, like, the fucking back out. Does Bella seem interested in any of them? No. So Aaron made a great point. One of the core things that Edward likes about Bella is that he can't read her mind. And after watching 3 of these movies now, I think Aaron's right when he said the reason that he can't read her mind is because she's so fucking stupid she doesn't have thoughts, so there's nothing to read. That became a core plot point in New Moon as well, because when they go to the Vampire High Council, one of their gifts, like the leader's gift, is he can touch someone and see everything they've ever experienced or whatever, and he goes up to her and can't see anything. So once again, I think Aaron's right that she literally has just a sub-zero IQ and actually experiences nothing. She's like a fucking plant with photosynthesis. So there's nothing to see. She's not special. She does nothing helpful. All she does is cause problems for everyone around her. At no point in even a single scene in these 3 movies has she done something helpful or useful. All she is a perpetual damsel in distress that for some reason everyone fights to the death for. Even people that have no reason to. Like, Jacob's entire clan of wolves protects her. For absolutely no reason. But in Eclipse, she cut her arm to save Edward. That's something. That's true, she did cut her arm to distract one of the vampires for a second. Like, literally a split second. But you know what she also could have done in order to distract that vampire? Literally just yell at her. Like, the blood itself wasn't the distraction. It was literally just her getting the attention. So she smelt the blood, and it got her attention. She could have thrown a rock at her, and it would have accomplished the same goal. It wasn't exactly some kind of crazy, smart, like, crafty play. But what's even more baffling is, like, I feel like there's actual cuckoldry undertones to this film. So, like I mentioned in the first movie, the extended cut, there's a scene where James and Victoria are making out, and then the leader vampire of that small team just watches and smiles. And that scene goes on for like 15 seconds. And then coming into New Moon and Eclipse, at the end of New Moon, Edward is back. He's with Bella. They go to meet Jacob in the woods. And she goes up to Jacob and right in front of Edward says, "I love you," to Jacob. And then says, "But we can't be together." And then walks back to Edward. And he's like totally fine with that. And then in Eclipse, there's a scene where they're trying to hide Bella. So they're in a tent. And she's getting cold because it's cold by the tent. And Edward's concerned she's going to die of like hypothermia. Jacob gets concerned about it too. And since it was established that Jacob is warm because he's a wolf, he crawls into bed with her to cuddle in front of Edward with his approval to watch. So he just sits there and snuggles with Bella while Edward watches, and then they have a conversation. And then shortly after that, Jacob learns that Edward and Bella are getting married. Also, Edward's a virgin. For 100 years, he's been a fucking virgin. And they're going to get married, and that's going to lead to them finally having sex. And Jacob didn't know. He learns that they're getting married. So he storms off, and Bella panics like, "Oh my god, no, wait. Oh, how could you tell him that we're getting married? I was trying to keep it a secret from him." So she catches up to Jacob and then tells Jacob to kiss her. So then they make out for like 30 seconds. And then she walks back to Edward. And Edward's like, I know what you did. And then she's like, "Yeah, but I love you more." And he's like, "I know." Even after she just fucking blatantly cheated on him in front of him. There's so much that I haven't even begun to touch on. I'm trying to figure out the best way of like composing all of the thoughts, because these two movies had so much to them. So like Victoria lost her lover James in the first movie. He became that big bad guy once he smelt Bella's stench. So then they had to kill her because he was obsessed with her. And Victoria was left without her lover. So she spends the entirety of New Moon just kind of popping up randomly to accomplish nothing. So she'll show up and then get hunted by the werewolves or the other vampires, and she just runs away every time. But during one of those chases, she picks up an old man, like literally like she's got a nerd by the lockers. So she's got this old man by the collar and then like drops him and runs away because the rest of the people found her. And he died from that injury. He died because she picked him up like a high school bully. And it was just one throwaway line where Jacob said he was dead. He just said he passed away. Oh, also, Meadow made a really good point. When she was... I'm bouncing back and forth all over New Moon here. Sorry for that. There's so much to put together for the puzzle here. When Bella was in, like, Rio de Janeiro or wherever the fuck it was, and they go to, like, the Vampire High Council, Dakota Fanning's there, and all these vampires have gifts. You know, like, Edward reads minds, Alice can see the future. Fucking Jasper's gift is he's a Confederate soldier. I shit you not. His backstory is he's a Confederate soldier, got turned back in the day, and was training New Bloods, and was blessed with the gift of mood changes. Which sounds very par for the course for Twilight. His gift is the ability to influence moods. So maybe he's the puppet master that makes everyone have these violent mood shifts and it's not like borderline personality disorder. That's possible. But my god, his gift is like mood shifts where he can subtly influence how people feel. Like he makes them 30% less sad or 5% more sad. And other vampires also have gifts. And when that guy touches her and realizes he can't see everything from her past, He then says, I want everyone to try her gifts on her. Meadow pointed out, like, what if one of them could just shoot lightning? She's not going to be immune to a lightning bolt. They just so happened that they got lucky, or she got lucky that the only gifts they had were, like, mental ones. Because the second one of them starts fucking Darth Sidious lightning blasting her, she's fucked. The imprinting? Oh, yeah. Well, that was just kind of yucky to listen to. It wasn't, like, the most egregious garbage of the movie. Jacob keeps talking about imprinting because they're wolves. So, like, some dude has, like, 2 lovers because they've imprinted or something. It was totally irrelevant. It really didn't mean anything, honestly. It didn't matter. Why are you Team Jacob, then? Like I said, because there has not been a single scene in any of these 3 movies where Edward does anything other than gaslight or lie to her. I swear to God, half of his lines with Bella are, I promise to do this thing, and then actual minutes later, completely breaks that promise and lies to her. And every time the two of them talk, it seems like they hate each other. So, like, Bella will be like, I can't live without you, Edward. And he'll be like, but I can live without you. And she's like, you're right, I can live without you. And he's like, no, but I really can't live without you, Bella. And then she's like, no, but I really can live without you, Edward. I love you, but this might not be right. Why would you love me? Like, it's just constant hostility. Just actual hostility, nonstop. It's not romantic at all. Not the fault of the actors, though. The writing and source material is just trash. Oh, yeah, I mean, obviously, all of these actors have proven that they are good actors. They were dealt a real shitty hand with this. What do you think about the werewolf design? What do you mean? It's just a fucking wolf. It's not like there's a unique design there. And also, all the werewolves are perpetually shirtless. Werewolves do have unique designs, dummy. They all wear jean shorts. True, I guess that is a pretty unique design. They do all wear some jorts. Good point. Not wrong. What's your favorite out of the 3 so far? It's gotta be Eclipse. They are actually getting better. So Eclipse is the one I'm talking about, where she just point blank cheats on Edward twice, and he's okay with it. Like, this one is just so crazy. And then, like, the big twist that Jasper's actually a Confederate soldier. Like, this is definitely the best one. This one also has, like, action sequences at the end. It's a full-blown war. So that was kind of cool, and the fighting was really goofy. Yeah, Jasper got a southern drawl out of nowhere. He was giving the backstory, and then out of nowhere, at no point so far had he done any southern accent. And then after he tells the story, even like mid-story, he starts speaking in a southern accent. And even at one point where like Alice like gets the better of him during training, he hits her with like a, well, howdy there, little missy. Golly, ma'am. For no reason. It was crazy. It was fucking crazy. Like, I just don't get where the romance is, though. That's just totally lost in all 3 of these films. There's no such thing as romance. Except there's some semblance of humanity when Jacob talks to Bella. Like, they actually speak normally. Meanwhile, half of what Edward does is just lie. Or just say, like, really edgy shit, like, about suicide being cool. Well, another example. In the first movie, one thing Edward makes very clear is that he breaks into Bella's room to watch her sleep. This is before they were even dating or anything. Like, he just said, like, he comes in, like, over the course of months just to watch her sleep. Oh, another thing that's super weird in New Moon. So, she becomes a recluse for 6 months, going through, like, very serious depression and, like, these night terrors she has because Edward left her. And then this fucking goofy guy, I don't even know his name because he's so meaningless in the plot. So they go to a movie together. It's this guy. This goofy guy. The second Bella snaps out of her depression, it's been 6 months, she doesn't really go to school. When she does go to school, she isolates herself from her friends, including this guy and the whole group. Oh, his name's Mike? Okay, Mike. Yeah, the second she comes back, after this 6-month hiatus of, like, depression, she sits down at the lunch table, Mike goes, is Bella back? And she's like, yeah. And he goes, good, do you want to see a movie together? Immediately asks her out on a date in front of, like, his girlfriend. Mike, I thought, had a girlfriend, which was the Anna Kendrick character, because they went to prom together, they made it very clear they both like each other a lot. They're still, like, very close. And then the second Bella comes back, he just, in front of her, asks Bella to a movie. And Bella's like, sure. And then brings Jacob with him, or with her. So then they're watching this movie called Face Punch, and I guess it's so heavy on action that it made Mike sick. So he goes to puke, and then Bella and Jacob leave without him. And then they start flirting and sitting down on like a staircase, and then Mike's like, alright, I think I'm just gonna go home. And then Jacob gets really offended for some reason. He's like, oh, well, if you're feeling sick, maybe you should go to a hospital. And maybe I should put you in the hospital. Out of nowhere. And then he's like, fuck, I gotta go home. Man, that was a good movie. It was a good movie. There's a scene I forgot to even mention in the yesterday. It's at the beginning of this movie, so when she's going through her depression and then slowly snapping out of it, she once again goes to another movie, but this time with Mike's girl, the Anna Kendrick character. They go to a movie together, and while they're leaving the movie, Bella sees like biker dudes in an alleyway, and they're catcalling. They're like, hubba hubba, baby. Woohoo, you want to take a ride on my bike? And we're like revving it up. And Andrew Kendrick character's like, let's go, Bella. They're being creepy pigs. And Bella's like, I'm gonna go over there. So she does, and then takes a ride on some middle-aged dude's motorcycle. And while she's doing that, she's having Force Ghost projections of Edward saying, no, you're going too fast. Bella, this is dangerous. Bella, stop. And then eventually, like, the Force Ghost is right in front of her, so this total biker stranger that was just being a fucking maniac, she, like, shouts at him and she's, like, screaming, stop, stop! So then he, like, hits the brakes and he's like, whoa, what a weirdo, get off my bike. So he takes her back to the movie theater, and then Bella and the other girl walk away. It was such a wild scene. Who's your favorite character? It's gotta be Bella. I think Bella's probably my favorite character because she's actually just a lobotomite. She doesn't make any decisions that make any level of sense and can't reciprocate real human emotion. Not that any, like, positive emotions are ever tossed her way from any of the characters in these movies, but even still, she's just hollow. It's, like, fascinating. Her dad is the only non-toxic one. Yeah, her dad's, like, the only character in any of these movies that, like, makes sense. His daughter just keeps running away, will vanish for days on end. Every time she's home, she's yelling and screaming, having these night terrors about losing Edward. If she's not screaming in the middle of the night, she's pouting around, moping and being sad all the time, and he's just like, what the fuck do I do? So he's literally drowning himself in fucking Pat's Blue Ribbon at all hours of the day. And it's like, yeah, that sounds about par for the course. Another thing that I absolutely could have seen happening during these movies' heyday, so in that scene where Jacob snuggles Bella in front of Edward in order to keep her warm, there's the line he says right before that where she's like shaking and her teeth are chattering and they're like, she needs my warmth. One thing that he says, and I already know what the reaction to the theater was, is he says, I'm hotter than you, to Edward as he crawls into the bed to warm her up. And I know the second Jacob said that, the theater erupted into applause. I guarantee there was audible gasps and fainting from the women in the audience. Team Jacob and Team Edward would unironically fight during the movie. Shit was hilarious. Yeah, I guarantee there was, like, actual fistfights over Team Edward or Team Jacob.
In standard YouTuber cliche fashion, this isn't a video I wanted to make, and I actually don't even know how to really begin it. I just have this whirlwind of emotions stirring inside of me like a tornado of pain and agony. 2 days ago, the new Hunger Games trailer dropped, and disappointed fans across the world all noticed something and cried out in unison, where is the most important character in the Hunger Games franchise, District 8 hospital helper, as portrayed by Charles in Mockingjay Part 1. I saw a lot of people huffing copium, thinking like maybe they were trying to save this for, you know, trailer number 2 as a grand reveal that District 8 hospital helper is back, because he needs to be. Without District 8 hospital helper, the story just doesn't really work. My character was the glue that held the entire narrative together, so how the fuck could this franchise even continue if I'm absent from it? But I'm just going to rip the band-aid off and give you the hard-to-swallow pill, a little suppository, but for your brain. I am not in this new Hunger Games movie. I never got contacted to reprise my iconic role. Most of you found me because of my acting expertise. My breakout role as District 8 hospital helper in Hunger Games Mockingjay Part 1. It's a performance that is truly timeless and still extensively studied at colleges across the country. I did something that's never been done before. I fully assimilated into this role. I became that character. For a brief magical moment on screen, Charles White ceased to exist, and all that was left was District 8 hospital helper. There's a fine line between reality and madness, and I fucking tap danced on it. I went where no mortal had gone before. I acted like no one had ever acted prior. Of course, I was snubbed at the Oscars. The bulk of my work was cut from the final product due to Hollywood corruption, and trust me, when it comes to corruption in Hollywood, the cup truly runneth over. There is no end to the disgusting filth and foul play behind the scenes of that industry. But I bore it. I was able to grit my teeth and accept, you know what? Maybe I did too well. And this was my divine punishment for that. My only sin was being too good at acting. So I let sleeping dogs lie. And as most of you know, 7 months ago, it turns out I was also not cast as Percy Jackson in the Disney Percy Jackson series, a role for which I also auditioned for and I thought I crushed. The only problem was the casting call was for a 12-year-old boy and I'm a 28-year-old man, so I think what must have happened is they decided to play it a little safer and choose a legitimate child to play the role. I can't hold any hard feelings against them for that, though I do think I would have made a better Percy Jackson, even though I'm sure the actor currently playing him is going to do fine. It's just hard to overlook the possibility of how great this show could have been with me spearheading all of it. You know, it's called acting for a reason. I don't have to actually be 12 to play a 12-year-old, right? And in fact, 16 years ago, I was 12. Like, legitimately 12. So you can't even get better method acting than that. I was that age. So it's just, I feel like it was a bit of a missed opportunity. I'm sure the show will still be fine. But I mean, come on. I could have been an incredible Percy Jackson. I shave, I cut my hair, and we use some fucking Robert De Niro de-aging technology, and bang, a little magic here, a little hocus pocus there, and you now have the best goddamn actor the world's ever seen in a leading role once again, the way it should be. But I'm getting sidetracked. Let's stay on the path. Hunger Games is coming out, and I'm not in it. Now, there's a lot of people that are trying hard to try and come up with film theories as to how this would even make sense without District 8 Hospital Helper. If you watch the films, you'll know that, unfortunately, I died in those movies. District 8 Hospital that I was helping at was blown to pieces. But I always thought that led to greater opportunity. They could have brought me back in Hunger Games Mockingjay Part 2 like Darth Vader. Could have fucking strung me up and like had all kinds of technology going and some kind of, mask that's allowing me to survive. Maybe they put in my brain in a tube, some kind of like Zordon shit perhaps out of Power Rangers. There were plenty of narrative ways of playing with that and continuing the story in a good direction instead of the fucking flat wet fart they finished it with that awful finale and conclusion. It could have been stronger if they had just brought my character back, but they decided not to. Missed opportunity. But this movie is a prequel. This movie is set a long time before the events of Hunger Games, Mockingjay, and all of those. So this could have been another opportunity where perhaps District 8 Hospital Helper is an immortal vampire. So I could still be alive during this film's setting. I could still be a District 8 Hospital Helper, and maybe in an even bigger capacity. Perhaps I was instrumental in the games. Like, there were so many ways of playing with this that could have made sense from a story perspective, but they decided to just play a very formulaic, boring fucking approach to this film instead of taking a chance on what made them special in the first place, which was me. I carried this franchise like Atlas carried the world on his back. I did so much fucking heavy lifting for Hunger Games only to get nothing in return. The disrespect to not even contact me about coming back, and without even having a nod to my character in the trailer, like, at least have like a fucking tombstone, like, here lies District 8 Hospital, well, I wouldn't be dead at this time. At least have like a fucking statue made of me here is District 8 hospital helper, the glue of Pan Am. Like, there's so many ways of at least appreciating the work that I put into this franchise. The blood, sweat, tears, elbow grease, like the countless nights, sleepless nights, studying the script in order to deliver a performance that would stand the test of time. And nothing, I get nothing. I get nothing in this trailer. It makes me sick. I spit on that. And don't even give me this mumbo jumbo about them not being able to afford me. For the Hunger Games, I would have fucking moved mountains. When people think of music, they think of Mozart. When people think of basketball, they think of Michael Jordan. And when people think of Hunger Games, they think of Charles White, District 8 hospital helper. I don't want to get too hung up on this. I'm getting very passionate. So for one last time, I will bless you all with my iconic moment from The Hunger Games Mockingjay Part 1. The only remnants of, the only trace of my character left in the final cut of that film. So I hope you're ready to cry. That was the arm that changed cinema forever. Now, I do want to move on to another quick topic, and it's all falling in line with the general subject here. It was recently announced that there's going to be a Twilight television series. The timing couldn't be better, honestly. I just finished watching all of the Twilight movies for the first time ever, and then literally days later they announced a TV series. It's almost like they've been tuning into my Twitch streams or like watching the videos I've made about Twilight, and they're like, huh, maybe we should dust off this property for one last rodeo. Like, the timing is just amazing. And I swear to God, if I don't get a role in that series, then there is no saving this fucking industry. I was born to play an important role in that television series. I could even play the main role, honestly. Like, you know, Edward, I think Robert Pattinson is a great actor, but he didn't do anything that special in this series. I could do what he did and do it better. Like, for example, when he first meets Bella in the biology classroom, he gets like very uncomfortable, like very irpy, about to puke and everything because she's stinky. I could easily do that. Oh, Bella, you're so stinky. You see, it's easy. It's easy. That's light work for me. After what I've done for the Hunger Games, as well as my audition for Percy Jackson, this is a role that's a walk in the park. But I would still give it 110% like I'm known for in acting. So I'm more than willing to negotiate contract terms or whatever for you know, having a meaningful part in this series. I really think I could breathe new life into it. You know, Twilight got a bad rep for how awful the acting was. Let's change that. So yeah, anyway, I just wanted to update you all on yet another role that I didn't get, which was the new Hunger Games movie. But, you know, maybe there is a light at the end of the tunnel here, and it leads to a bigger role in the Twilight series. You know, there's really no telling, so we'll keep our fingers crossed there. That's about it. So yeah.